XSplit decides it wants to go change it on me. But no excuse. I should have double checked. I should always double check this stuff. But sorry, guys. We'll start it off again. We'll do a little twirly bird. We'll start it off again. And yeah, we didn't do the stream 2 days ago or even yesterday. I just came down with this massive, I got back from holidays. I was feeling great. I actually built this computer, posted it on Instagram. I was like, wow, check out this. This is a new build coming to the channel. Just was absolutely killing it, on track to do a 1-day video even. And started benchmarking it. And then it was like, oh God, what is this? Head started throbbing, started sneezing, then bedbound for 4 days. And now, you can see my eye. That's what happened. I've got now that this flu has gone onto my eyes and it's infected my eyes. And my dad, he's got it worse than I do now. His right eye's just all puffed up. He can't even see out of it, and it's moving onto his left eye. So there's some plague going around. It's brutal, man. So though with that said, let's get on with the intros for 2017. Kev gets another shot. He's going to do my intro. I'm going to do his intro.
Alrighty then. So we'll try to get it.
Yeah.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Tech City. My name's Brian. We're going to go down to Bunnings Warehouse in my Holden Ute. Oh man, look at this scallywag. Look at him. He's from Willamalulu, and gonna wear my what are they called? Oh, what do you guys call the your thongs? Yeah. Put on my thongs.
It's put on.
That's
me,
what you call flip flops, eh?
Put on me thongs, yeah. Put on me thongs.
Yeah. And listen to the. Oh, you call them cicadas.
Yeah.
Not cicadas.
Cicadas, mate. Head down to Bunnings.
Cicada.
Yeah.
Cicada. Go to Bunnings Warehouse. We got Mitre 10 Mega. That's the New Zealand. That's the New Zealand one, man.
Right on.
That's where it's at.
Okay. So that was your intro. That was it. That was the second chance.
Yeah, I can't really do if you're trying to do an Australian accent as a New Zealander, you just got to try and make your New Zealand accent sound a bit more unrefined, a bit more evil, and then you'll nail that Australian accent.
Oh yeah. All right, so my turn.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you got to nail the Australian accent, and it's hard to do.
It is, man. I mean, it's like what they say. What do you call a sophisticated Australian? A New Zealander. So
Okay.
Oh.
We're gonna get straight into it. Hey guys, welcome back 2017. This is Keith from Tick Showdown. And there was actually a funny story I got for you guys. There was a bush turkey out back, and now these things are allergic to ticks.
Oh my god. The ticks, eh?
Yeah, the bush turkeys, they're allergic to ticks.
Oh my goodness.
Come on, that was pretty good. That was pretty good for my second time.
I think it was a bit of a mess, but
and then
one thing I thought we should talk about just before, guys, we jump into the news and stuff. I still haven't tested Kaby Lake yet, but Brian has. So Brian, what did you make of it by comparison to Skylake? For maybe the people that haven't seen your video yet, what do you think of Kaby Lake in general, and Z270 for that matter?
Great question. I mean, basically with Kaby Lake, there are a few little features, right? There are a few little extras in there. You've got native NVMe support, Optane support for Intel's Optane, thing like that. But I mean, how many people are actually going to utilize that to its max potential, those extra features or whatever? I mean, there would be a few people out there, I'm sure, but the majority of enthusiasts who want to overclock are not going to be able to get anything out of Kaby Lake over Skylake except these higher overclocks. And now this is the thing. How many other people, when you start doing the retail samples and all the results start coming in?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just burped. How many people are going to be getting the overclocks that we're all seeing, everyone else is getting? I got 4.9 on the 7700K, got 5 on the 7600K. How many people are going to be getting that in the real world? That's what I want to see. I want to see if it's legit. I've got a funny feeling it'll be probably maybe 100 megahertz lower, maybe 4.8, 4.7. I mean, from seeing the diminishing returns. Like my 7700K, for example, it just went to 4.9, and then after that, it just couldn't go any higher. That was it. That was just 4.9. You gave it even an extra, whatever, 100 millivolts. It didn't even go an extra 100 megahertz. It just, that was it. 4.9 was it for this CPU. The 6600K, that actually booted up at 5.1, but then the screen started flickering. Like, I've never seen this from a CPU before, but the screen started like flickering and all crazy started happening there. So, you know, it remains to be seen, but these CPUs, I'd say, would top out around about 5 for the average person on air. Keep in mind, though, you have to de-lid them. I think that's a big thing because the heat is creeping up on these things like big time. You know, you can drop.
They learned nothing from Devil's Canyon.
Well,
that was so good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just I don't know. I think me personally, the reason why, and what I've heard from the industry, why people were quite upset is the very, very, very limited IPC gains of like nothing practically. I mean, people will probably get a better overclock out of them, but is it really worth it for such a lack of IPC gain?
Exactly.
Pretty disappointing, though. I don't think anyone was impressed by Kaby Lake.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't think anyone like is going to be jumping out of their seats and going, "Yeah, like, oh my god, this is the CPU I've been waiting for," you know. But at the same time, if you can get a 7700K, especially, you can get that thing to 5 gigahertz. If you can get that thing to 5 gigahertz on air, that is going to be a 5820K replacement in ways, you know. But you've only got 4 cores. You've got a better gaming CPU. You know, if you can get one to 5 gigahertz, it's going to be a very capable gaming and even workstation CPU at those clocks.
Yeah.
You know, so it is a very good CPU for a 4-core, but it's dependent on if you can get it as high as 5 gigahertz. That's the biggest thing. And so how many people can get it to 5 gigahertz that's what I'm really waiting to see with the consumer data that'll come in. So, I mean, I'm a little bit skeptical. You know, as always, I guess. Always skeptical.
Yeah, I think most of us are. Yeah, there's always something. Someone said something interesting, and then we'll talk briefly about the Z270. But they were saying you got samples from Intel, correct? I
got. I actually can't reveal. So.
Oh, okay.
NDA. Yeah.
I just wanted to tell people that actually in the past, when I've tested certain things, they actually have. Been what's known as an engineering sample, and people seem to think that's always going to be really good. Honestly, I can tell you guys, some of the ones I've got, retail ones have been better. Honestly, it's not always the case. Now, I think with very big YouTubers, because I'm still quite small, maybe they do give them specific ones, but from my personal experience, I actually haven't noticed that. And the majority of the time, I've actually had somewhat better luck with actually retail samples. Not always, but there's been times when, I've got retail ones and they've just been fantastic.
Well, this is the point I raised with Steve from Hardware Unboxed. He had an engineering sample, and it clearly said on ES. The ones that I got I'm pretty sure they were retail samples, because you've got you've got the markers there. If it's an engineering sample, it will say engineering sample, blah blah blah. ES or QS, I think, as well. And these two that I got didn't have any branding whatsoever on it, so I believe they were both retail samples. So yeah. Anyway, that's a Kaby Lake. It's it is what it is. I'd like the motherboards were pretty good. Some of the motherboards and some of the features.
C270.
The Z270.
Do you like it over C170?
Well, I mean, I've got to still tweak around with it and see what I can do with Z270. I've got a pretty secretive big video coming. Thanks to, a lot of the viewers out there, man. A lot of the viewers, I love the viewers out there. They give me all these tips and these sort of underground CPUs. And so I've been researching a lot, and there's going to be a really cool video coming very soon. And I'm sure you guys are going to love it. And so, I just love the audience, man. They're constantly sending me messages on all this underground stuff. And this time around, I'm going to release the videos before I sort of tell other YouTubers and stuff, because last time I did that, like, pretty sure Hardware Unboxed. I mean, I talked to Steve about it. I was like, you guys released the video before I even got my 8-core. You remember those 8-core Xeon Sandy Bridge Xeons? Like, I dropped the word on it before I even got it in. And, like, Yeah, and then Hardware Unboxed is like releasing a video like. I mean, he's on his game, that's for sure. I'm gonna give him credit. He's on his game. It's like, damn, this time around, I kind of want to get the credit for the channel before I spill the beans. So, but yeah, of course, the viewers deserve the biggest credit, and that's the That's the best thing. Anyway, what do we got for topics? We got a lot of people want to talk about CES and what happened at CES. So we're watching back on all the feedback on CES. What did you think the biggest things were before we go on to the first topic, maybe? So,
well, honestly, I think most of us were looking at AMD to see what the obviously Vega and Ryzen, which we will be talking about quite a bit in this episode of the Tech Lounge. So. That's what a lot of us were looking at. Also, I was curious about the upcoming new motherboards for the new AM4 platform from all the add-in board partners. So, and we'll be covering that a bit later on as well, and that should be quite interesting. Also, with the new B350 chipset and all the rest of it. We'll talk about that stuff a bit later. But I think that was really interesting. I would say my biggest disappointment was from Nvidia. I mean, we pretty much got nothing from them except something to do with GeForce Experience, and that was about it. So pretty disappointing there. I was expecting maybe some details on the 1080 Ti. I understand why they're probably keeping their cards close to their chest right now, because they want to see what Vega is going to be doing. So it makes sense from a business perspective, but a bit of a letdown. It makes you kind of wonder why they even bothered.
Well, that's what I heard. A lot of people were like, "Oh my god, 1080 Ti announcement's coming." Oh my god, nothing happened.
Nothing at all. So
also, Kev got impersonated as well. We will talk about that. Kev got impersonated by a guy before we get on this topic. Because poor Kev, man, he got impersonated. He's been a little bit down about it, so we got to cheer him up. Like, I'm just going to tell him. I'm going to say, look, Kev.
I'll bounce back.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm going to say, Kev, there's a lot of dirty people out there, man. You just got to forget about it. Put your head down, move on, man.
I hit up Barnacle about it. You know him, right?
Yeah, of course.
Have you met him?
I've talked to him before. I haven't actually met him in person though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hit him up. I haven't got a reply yet, although he might have today. But I just asked him about because apparently he had the same thing happen to him, and it caused him quite a few problems.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to see what was going on with that. But yeah, it's a little bit disappointing. But I think most companies that you work with are pretty smart about it. And other people, I talked to Chris from Tech Tablets, and he said it's a good idea to, when you're talking to companies, make it a thing that if they're emailing with you, that you send messages to each other over Twitter, so then you can actually see that your official Twitter and their official whoever it is, like let's just say Asus, they will, you can contact that way so that it shows. So that's
exactly, yeah.
That's something to do, yeah. So that's fine.
Okay, so what do we got here? So we got the first topic was the Vega, the Vega.
Yeah.
Moving on, so officially, finally, we were how many minutes into the stream? It was like finally getting some topics up. We've got here 5 things that revealed about AMD's cutting-edge graphics cards. So they had this on display. I think Linus, actually, it's funny, Linus got a exclusive look at the graphics card itself. And it had all tape over it, but it did look very long. It did have a USB 3 port, apparently, for diagnosing things.
Yeah, that won't be on the actual one.
Yeah.
It's just for right now. Yeah.
And so it looked like it had a blower-style cooler as well, but just a bit bigger, probably more powerful. And there was also a lot of new technologies that came out of this. So what do you think the best things that were coming out of Vega, what do you think they would be?
Well, from what the new things we've learned from going through these, listening to the videos and that. So the first thing, the number one thing on that article saying, damn, it's fast, is they're basically saying that at the settings it was at when they were demoing Doom, it was doing very well, better than a GTX 1080. Now, Doom is a special snowflake by the fact that, it's got OpenGL or Vulkan, so it's going to favor that over DirectX 11. AMD cards work very well in Vulkan. So there's that to take into consideration, but they have done a few other ones, but it's looking pretty powerful right now. That's what we can say, judging by the specs that have come out. This is going to be 4096 stream processors, obviously on Vega, should be extremely powerful. my prediction now for power and performance-wise, I think it'll beat the 1080, but I think it'll probably only beat it by, say, I think we're going to get a repeat of what happened with the Nvidia 700 series and the AMD 200 series, where the 290X came out and it dethroned the 780 by about 5%, 10% performance. Yeah. And then the 780 Ti came out and just smashed it. So that's what I predict in terms of performance this time. It'll probably beat the 1080 by about 5, maybe 10%, and then the 1080 Ti will come out and smash it. But yeah, so that was interesting. The memory is the most interesting one. So it's running HBM2. They're saying it's using they're putting it under the name high bandwidth cache, and it's using a new high bandwidth cache controller, or cache, depends how you want to say it.
Cache,
so
baby.
So this is good. They've doubled the stack, doubled the amount per stack, so that's good. So this should have 8 gigabytes, so you won't be limited to the 4 that the Fury X did. So that's good. And also the bandwidth's increased. The bandwidth's doubled, I believe. So that's really good. This is going to be the main, the best thing I think about Vega is the memory. This memory is going to be insane. The bandwidth, everything. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. So I think that's what I personally think is going to be the biggest leap forward here, is going to be that memory. And if Nvidia doesn't hit back with, say, GDDR5X on a 384-bit bus or something equally crazy on the 1080 Ti, if they just run standard GDDR5, then it's going to be difficult from a marketing perspective, considering that's quite an old memory technology now. And this one's looking pretty crazy, man. HBM2. It's where it's going to be at. It's a lot of bandwidth.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking about. But back when you said they released like the 290X and then quickly came the 780 Ti, I mean, you have to remember that was when Nvidia wasn't doing much wrong. Like, I mean, or how would you put it? I mean, they had the GeForce Experience 2 that was looking really good, or they had Shadow Player was working properly. They weren't really pulling any, obvious funny buggers. Now, this time around, however, I think a lot of sentiment's shifting away from Nvidia, because especially look at the GeForce Experience 3, and I complained about it in the past, I'll complain about it again.
I don't like it,
People don't like it. People have asked, Nvidia, we don't like this piece of software. Not only does it degrade performance on our machines, it's got telemetry embedded in it. We don't like that as gamers. We don't want that to have it going on 24/7. And, Nvidia doesn't listen. And that's the thing. When you don't listen to your customers, they're going to jump ship. So I think that this way, AMD just have to release Vega as soon as possible. Like, yeah, sure, they can do a 1080 Ti. Hey, we're going to come and beat you. But it's kind of like, if Nvidia's kind of going to play low blows on their customers, I'll call it that, I don't really care. But if Nvidia's going to keep doing that to their customers, then they're going to be shafting the market. And, that's what's going to happen. They're going to lose sales. And people are going to say, okay, well, all right, they got the performance lead. Big deal. What good is the performance lead when they're screwing us over constantly? That's how the customers feel at the moment. And so there's a lot of negative sentiment going towards Nvidia. And if anything comes out of this video and Nvidia reps are watching, we're not going to send this guy review samples, whatever. I don't need your review samples. Whatever. Whatever. I don't need your review samples. I'd rather stay true to the viewers who got me this far all the time, every time. I don't give a shit. Yeah. Straight up. So, if you guys are out there, I think that's the reason why AMD sales are increasing lately. I think that's the reason why there's a big shift from Nvidia to AMD. It's not just people like throwing out these arguments of, okay, they've got more performance. People are throwing out the argument of, oh, they've got the better efficiency on their GPUs, because the core basis of, hey, are we being cared about as a consumer? That's being thrown out the window in ways, because Nvidia's not listening to their customers.
I get that. I agree, and I think the fact that Intel and Nvidia have been having kind of bad press lately, or not in both aren't in particularly good spots, that lines it up better for AMD, both in the GPU and CPU market. Now, another thing that's interesting going down, and the third point they make, is this efficient pipeline management. So this is good. So basically, Vega's not only going to have extremely good memory and let's hope, a very powerful GPU. Well, it is going to be powerful. I don't need to hope for that, but we'll see how powerful it actually is. It's going to be powerful. There's no two ways about it. But this is interesting. So this is basically it's making it the rendering more efficient. So as we read through, the graphics card processing vertex shaders before passing information onto the geometry engine for additional work. So basically, Vega is just speeding things up with the primitive shaders to quickly identify the polygons that aren't visible to the player, so that the geometry engine doesn't waste time on them. So it's basically just going to not render what you can't see.
Yeah, so the CPU is pushing the data through the GPU, and the GPU is saying, all right, well, I don't need to render this because it's not coming out on the final picture. I'm just going to forget about it. So that's going to save the GPU a bit of workload. So that means more frames. So that's a pretty cool thing that's coming out of 0.3. Also, 0.4, I thought 0.4 was kind of tying in with 0.3. They've got, again, their streamlined binning rasterizer design. So it only renders the pixels that are, again, on the surface. So that part,
it now feeds back and renders back, and because the so the pixel engine into the larger shared L2 cache rather than pumping it directly into the memory controller. So this is just efficiency stuff. So it's not only going to be more powerful, but it should be more efficient, which is great from the perspective of getting higher frames, which is nice as well. And then the last bit is just saying the next gen compute engine, which is capable of 512 8-bit operations per clock to 156 16-bit operations per clock. All the rest of that's just good as well. 16.
Well, so basically what they're saying, so with that first bit, the next gen compute engine, they're just basically saying the throughput is through the roof.
Yeah.
So you can do a lot of productivity with this, not just gaming. It's going to be designed for, obviously, power users and whatnot. And so really cool coming out of that article. Let's move on now to do you want to close out, or do you want to say anything more about
the only other thing did you want to move on to the second Vega article?
We might as well get over Vega first, because then we can talk about it.
So. We'll go into that second Vega article. The one has Linus's video in it. So this was interesting. So Linus got a hands-on with it. This picture, the one they've pictured here, this won't be the one that you get. It obviously won't have a USB connection on the back of it or anything like that. The reason why they've covered up this tape is because they don't want people to know what power connections it has, although I would pretty much guarantee it's going to have a 225 watt TDP. And the 1080 Ti will have a 250 watt TDP. That's pretty much, so it'll be
pretty big, man. I mean, it'll probably be 2 8-pins, probably an 8-pin and a 6-pin. That's what you're looking at.
It won't be a 2 8-pin on the reference, but I think it'll be 6-pin. 6-pin
and 8-pin, I'm guessing, off the factory from the OEM.
Yeah, and then dual 8-pins on the non-reference. But so Linus had a hands-on with it. He just did some testing and Doom and other things, and talked to Raja about the architecture and stuff itself. So that's interesting. They've still taped up the back, so you don't know what I/O it is. I'd imagine it's going to be the
tape.
I'd imagine it will be something pretty powerful. So that's, and they're saying it's coming out in first half of 2017, and then there'll be another one coming out in the second half of 2017. So this will be interesting. So basically, what they've said right now about performance is it should have 12.5 teraflops. Memory, as we said, it's either 8 or 16 gigs. It might offer both. Bandwidth is going to be insane. The same as the Fury X, as some people in chat were assuming before. And and of course with that new memory, it's going to be very interesting there. So these will be very powerful. 4096 stream processors, as we said before. That's, how could you? Brian can probably explain this, but it doesn't. The amount of CUDA cores or stream processors themselves, because I know some people might get confused and be like, hey, but the Fury X had the same amount of stream processors, so will it have the same performance as the Fury X? No, there'll be IPC gains, and it's a different architecture. there will be gains there as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's going to be like higher clocks. There's going to be higher clocks.
Yeah,
That's the
higher
biggest
clocks
thing,
and
right? You've
everything.
got higher clocks. You've got the obviously you looked at those things that we just spoke about, points 3 and 4, right? They, rendering pixels differently. They're only rendering the surface. They're forgetting about polygons in the. So there's so many things going on that is going to help this architecture.
And manufacturing change as well, going to 14 nanometers. So
so they're applying some filters on there that are going to help performance, essentially.
Yeah.
And this is a good thing. And then you've got obviously 14 nanometer as well, which theoretically should help with performance too, not just with power efficiency. And then you've got other things on there, like their drivers with just increasing over time. So, it's looking like a really good process. I mean, the stream processors themselves, they are a big factor. They're the cause of the GPU, so to speak. Without them, you're not going to get any freaking frames out on your monitor. But at the same time, they're not the be all and end all. But they are important. So, what remains to be seen though is how high this is actually going to clock. I would
say 1 point. If I'm guessing right now, and certain things I've read, I would say it's probably going to sit around the 1500 megahertz mark. That's probably so higher than the RX 480. I doubt it would be lower than the RX 480, which they generally they sit at about 1300ish. They like about that.
But look, I got a RX 470 here. This one here. I'm going to tap it a little bit more. This one here, it went up to for a drum roll. How high do you think it went?
1.4 something.
1311 megahertz. Oh man, that's such a good, wow, man. Yeah. After that, it started artifacting. It shat itself. So, I mean, are all these cards really going to go to 1.5 gigahertz? Let's be honest. It's a bigger die, man. It's got more.
I would hope
so. But technically, the RX 480, once it's refined, should be getting higher clocks than this big brother.
Yeah, I mean, if you're comparing it to Nvidia, though, if you go through, as you go up, the clock speeds go up. 1080s generally you can get the most out of.
They're the cream of the crop, though. That's a different story.
Yeah, that's and these are two different architectures as well. It's Polaris versus Vega, but I think it will be interesting. I think the main thing people are really interested in now is speeds. Obviously, that's a big factor. Price as well. Price is a very big one. How competitive will it be?
Wait, wasn't the world record done on a 1060? 3 gigahertz?
Could have been. I'm not sure. I would have assumed it would have been a 1080, but so I think price will be interesting. I would assume the price will be similar to where the 1080 is at the time of launch. It'll need to be competitive with that. So if it ends up being say 5 or 10% better in terms of performance over a 1080, but they set them at the same price, they just peg it to what Nvidia's done, then that'll be interesting also. So Vega right now we're still talking. We got a bit more information out, but looks like
it's going to be next too as well. That's a pretty big announcement too. They're going to have a dual
dual
solution.
GPU version. So that'll be cool as well. That'll be very, very powerful. So that'll probably be what they'll hit the 1080 Ti with, or that could be something like the Pro Duo was, and more intended for sort of productivity / gaming type things. As you can see, the 4-stack of HBM2 that's going to have
it's going to be a great graphics card. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be really good.
Oh, it'll be super powerful. So that'll be interesting too. But from right now, what we're seeing is that everyone who's waiting for Vega, you're going to have to wait a bit longer, and possibly to June. And from what we've read right now, I can say that it definitely is going to be extremely powerful. This thing is going to be one hell of a chip. However, how it measures up against Nvidia will be something we have to test at the time. But it's fair to say that it should be, it's going to be competitive with the GTX 1080. Judging by the specs from what we've seen, I would be very surprised if it can't beat a 1080.
And Nvidia doesn't want to release the 1080 Ti because AMD haven't
They're
released
waiting.
Vega yet. Yeah,
Yeah,
so.
they're waiting. Yeah.
Yep, that's pretty much it. So we don't know the release date. We're looking at around first half of 2017, whatever that means. So it could be as late as people are saying. It could be as late as June this year for Vega.
Yep.
And I mean, judging by how many, apparently all those computers on the AMD booth, the majority of them had Titan XPs in there. So that probably goes to show that that's actually still an early sort of sample, really early in the works.
They're not in mass production
Yeah,
yet, so it's still going to be a while away.
Yeah, you're still going to look. Maybe that June 2017 is looking like pretty accurate. And then you're looking at price. How much are they going to charge? No one knows yet. But that being said, they are going to be releasing a competitive card. It is going to be, you know, definitely looking at beating a GTX 1080. And then, of course, you're going to have the 1080 Ti coming straight out after that. But again, is that consumer sentiment, you know, which I'd say arguably is down on the Nvidia side, is that going to play a big role this time around? I mean, certainly for me, I'm definitely going to go out and pick up a Vega card.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting. Price-wise, it'll be interesting too. I'm assuming it'll be for a reference one. I'll put the mount out there at about the US $600 mark. I would assume it will be somewhere around that. So to be for Kiwis, you'll be looking around $1,100.
See, now that imposter enthusiasm can come in. $1,000, $1,000. But
I'm all good, man.
Let's get you excited. Let's get you excited about Ryzen. Okay, so here it is, the CPUs, the all new details revealed. This was really cool news in ways, and I will say, with that was Linus had the chance to. He actually went into the menus, didn't he? Like I saw him went into the Doom menu. He actually had the chance. I wonder if he had the chance to test or go and change the resolution down to the most resolution, the lowest resolution possible, and then quickly look at the frames on that given particular area and the level. And then when he gets home, he can just quickly test out the Intel CPU. He would have got a pretty rough idea of the raw IPC of Zen, which would have been really cool. But anyway, enough of that. Let's get back onto here. Ryzen CPUs 7.
Well, you couldn't really because it was running the Vega GPU, wasn't it?
Oh, but still, once you drop it all the way down, even if you ran like an RX 480, because the GPU wouldn't be topping out, it would be the CPU.
I see.
It'd be the CPU topping out. So
I see what you're getting.
Yeah, he could have just tested that quickly. It would have been really cool. But I'm pretty sure he was being hawked. They would have been like, "What are you doing? What are you doing on that thing, man? What are you doing on that thing?" So we got here a great article from PC World. So they got all this basically in a nutshell. What's going on with the hardware? We've got all new motherboards coming out from all the big four manufacturers. But interestingly enough, I thought the chipset, the way they've organized the chipset, was actually pretty cool. I kind of agree with it for the most part. The CPUs, I'm going to say they're all unlocked. Every CPU from AMD on this lineup is going to be unlocked, which is great news. You're not going to have to pay a license fee for overclocking your CPU, which is great. But then they structured it into like the X360, the X300, the B350, which is my favorite choice, and we'll get onto that a little bit later. And then they had the A320, which was locked. So what do you think about all this first, before I start giving my 2 cents on it? What do you think?
So as you said, if you guys, the B350, so even it says mainstream, which you think, well, I'm going to be gaming and stuff like that, it's not going to be for me. That will still be very good for the vast majority of you guys out there. Even if you're going to be doing overclocking and stuff like that. So those B350s will be the main one. I assume they'll probably be the biggest seller. And then you have the X370, and that's going to be your top of the line ones, all the bells and whistles, and all the rest of it. That'll be what you want to, if you're going to go a bit more crazy, that's what you're going to be looking at. But yeah, we'll talk about the motherboards a bit more in detail a little bit later on. But yeah, from what I'm seeing, it's looking really, really nice. These B350s. Again, we don't know too much about them right now. There's a bit of information out there, actually, a bit more than I thought would be coming out as of right now. But yeah, I think they're going to be really, really good. That'll hopefully, price point wise, it'll be very competitive with the Z. Because I mean, really, from on the Intel side of things, I mean, you've got three very clear choices here. I mean, on Intel's side with the newest ones, you got what, Z270. Well, let's go back. You got Z170, and then you'd only have the, oh, what was it? I never even tested it. The next one down from the 170s. Was it the 150s or
What's this
what were the Intel motherboards?
The Z170s, they're all overclockable, yeah, and then anything after
Yeah,
that's
but they
not.
had the what was it? The
B150.
yeah, B150. That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had, whereas this seems more. It's sort of like having the fact that you got three choices now.
Well, it's kind of like having X99 as well in that same group. So you've got
yeah. It's mixed together. Yeah. That's what. Yeah. So that's quite cool. So I'm quite looking forward to that, given the price points that they'll be coming out on, and underneath the other graph that has the what they're going to be. What will work with what. So as you see, the Ryzen will be available to work with the mainstream and enthusiast boards. So if you're going to be running Ryzen, you're going to have to be on either the B350 or the Z370.
Yeah. Well, basically what I'm taking out of this is that the X370 is going to have, SLI support, Crossfire support. It's going to have everything. All the bells and whistles that you'd want from your motherboard is going to be on the X370. For me, the B350 is going to have all that, the necessities. It's going to have overclocking. And obviously, it's up to the manufacturers to implement a solid VRM. So, I'm going to be searching around for the sweet spot B350 motherboard. I think a lot of other people are going to be as well. Because you don't have, I don't need SLI or Crossfire. I haven't used it for so long. So that'd be my picks. Straight away, you're not paying a licensing fee to Nvidia for SLI. On that motherboard.
Yeah.
And then you've got, things like, you got less SATA ports, less USB 3 ports, whatever. I don't really, max USB. I mean, I use probably like 6 USB ports max. I don't know how many people use on average, but I guess it's not more than maybe 8. And it looks like you've got...
Nah, you wouldn't use more than 8. Most people anyways.
Yeah, and so you can get a USB 2 extender anyway if you really need it. So you've got that. You've got the, you got there, even on the B350, it looks like you will have X16 Gen 3 support for PCIe 3. So even if some massive GPU does manage to come out that does get a slight performance boost on Gen 3, you're still going to take advantage of it on the B350. So it's looking like it's got everything that you would need. And that's what I really like. I like it how AMD have said, okay, we got this mainstream board that's going to kick ass. It's going to be the B350. So and the X370 is there for everyone who just wants everything. So
that's really good. And as we're going down with the coolers, if people are worried about it, thinking you're going to need to get a new cooler, it looks like you won't. You'll require. They're saying you'll require new brackets.
Well, we'll pull up the motherboard photos here. It looks already similar to AM3. I mean,
it contains this very similar amount of pins, so I think it'll be.
I mean, the brackets got that long elongated sort of...
Yeah, you should be able to get away with it. They said if it's an existing one that uses clips rather than bolts, it should transfer over directly. So it'll just depend on what cooler you're running. If you're on, if you're running an AMD setup right now. So interesting. But this will be...
Oh, sorry. Yeah. There's some really cool boards coming out from Asrock as well. Like we got Asrock first up here. I'm going to quickly go through all the motherboards, but they got the Taichi, they've got their X370 professional gaming. Then they've got this one. This was my favorite. It's the AB350 Pro 4, and then you've got the battery as the O, PRO. I thought that was pro. I thought that was pro. Like
These
is a good job.
Just absolutely stunning motherboards. These Asrock ones. These look absolutely superb.
Yeah. It does say, I love this Pro 4, man. It's B350. It looks pro. It looks like it's got a decent VRM there. Forget that, that sweet spot overclock. And, that's about all you really need. So, I don't know what's going on in the background there. Got some tap going or something. So, that's the Asrock boards. They look pretty solid. Even the K4 Gaming looks pretty good too. So, minimalistic sort of, looks like it's got a half decent VRM there. and it's going to be a budget option, so pretty cool. And then you've got
good connectivity here as well on the like the X370 Touch. Include 2 USB 3.1, 1 Type A, 1 Type C, 10 USB 3.0, 8-channel Pure Sound 4 onboard audio, Gigabit Ethernet, Intel-made controller, 802.11 AC WLAN, storage. You got M.2 slots and SATA 6 gig, all the stuff. I mean, this is what AMD needed. These very updated. This is up to date with everything. You know, you wouldn't have anything missing that you'd want. This is what we've been, because if you go back to what the fucking 970s.
Yeah.
Oh, we just swear on this.
Oh no, that's fine. You can swear, like occasional let one rip. You know, we're gonna.
Nah, I'm just thinking because it's so old, man. What, they don't even run USB 3, do they?
Yeah, I mean some of them are so old.
It's just ancient.
Well, that was the thing. That's what I was going to say too. With the A320 as well versus the 970, for example, I kind of like that they've locked that platform because there were so many 970 boards that were coming out. People were dropping in 8 cores in them and being like, "Oh my god, my board blew up," and it's like the VRM just wasn't good enough. And so what you've got here is the A320s. It's like, okay, you're giving the manufacturers the go-ahead to put on these, budget, cheap VRMs because people aren't going to be overclocking CPUs on them. So, I kind of agree with it. I think it's that cheap sort of end platform where you can see those cheap VRMs go and still be a budget option for people who don't want to overclock, who just want to whack in whatever, an APU.
And there's a lot of people out there that like that.
Yeah, and so I kind of agree with what they've done with the A320 and the A300. Yeah, so I kind of like it. Yeah. Okay, lock it, but give manufacturers an option to make cheap motherboards, but at the same time, not tarnish their brand name, because when people start blowing things up, it's going to be like, okay, well, I did it on a motherboard with a good VRM under a good license. And that would be the B350 or the X370. So definitely kind of like that. We've got Gigabyte's motherboards up here with the Aorus. And the VRMs are looking pretty solid, especially on this first one, the white and black one. The VRM looks very beefy on that thing, I will say.
I like the slots as well. Having the metal guards around them is good too. I always like to see that because people do bust them. Or some people do anyway. So that,
there's probably people out there in the audience like, oh, these things don't look that good. It's just the lighting. Like, I can tell you straight away, if they took that in the sunlight, there'd be some much better photos.
It would look better, but I think the Asrock one still would look better regardless. They got more graphics, like, artwork on them and stuff. So but these will be all right. If you're curious, Aorus is going to be Gigabyte's main sort of gaming brand going forward. I suppose the equivalent would be Asus's ROG type branding. So that's why they're going with that. But these look good as well. I'm seeing
MSI had the titanium here. They had the titanium, just loading that up. But they also had this camouflage Tomahawk. This one looked awesome.
Yeah, that looks badass, man. Look at all those slots. Look at all those slots.
Look at it. You've even got PCI slots, like, but it looks like wow, that is so freaking cool. Like, yeah, I'm gonna be getting out my old sound card, getting a Tomahawk, and it actually looks like a really cool motherboard, but it looks like it's got a decent VRM. You get your one little steel slot there for a bit of e-ping, and what a cool board. Tomahawk's looking good too. And then of course they got their titanium. That's just like, duck's nuts. So they got their duck's nuts board and didn't see much out of Asus. So
not that much yet, but
not yet.
Oh, this is it's interesting in the comments. People are saying about how they're only running 2 M.2 slots. I guess you could complain about that, but
they want 3?
I suppose so. I mean, what is 2 not enough? You'd imagine it would be.
Well, I mean, 2 for a SLI, and then God, I knobbed it so hard. 2 for RAID 0, and then you've got 1 for your whatever your scratch disk or whatever. I mean, I can understand if you're full-on pro video editor.
I've never heard that complaint before, though, from anyone I've ever met, or saying like, "Oh man, like." I only got 2 M.2 slots,
I mean, it remains to be seen. It remains to be seen. So
maybe in the future.
I'm not gonna judge anyone for their peculiar taste, but I could see it as a valid concern. Like, for people who want to just spend crazy amounts of money, but they want the best. They want the absolute best, and there are people out there.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there's no 8 RAM slot module boards, which workstation people are going to want to take advantage of. So that's kind of a concern as well.
That's a good point too, especially since a lot of people were AMD showing the top Ryzen CPU going up against the 6900K, which is obviously on the X99 platform. That's a good point, actually. Yeah,
everybody I know on the Gold Coast that does photography, does this, does that, they're all using X99, dude. And they've got everyone that I know on the coast. Is there? Yeah, that's what I mean. Everyone I know on the coast has got a workstation PC. Yeah. Some people do have like a 6700K or a 4790K or whatever still. But people who are doing like this as their daily job, like every day they're just grinding out Photoshop or whatever. Everyone I know has got 8 RAM slots, bang, 6 core, 8 core.
Yeah.
So so I'm that remains to be seen. What's their real sort of single user workstation solution sort of thing?
Yeah, I think it's good. This is good news though, guys. Like the B350 and the Z370, these are all going to be very up to date. So you won't have to worry about AMD being behind in terms of motherboard technology anymore after these all come out.
Yeah. So now this is one thing I wanted to look at. Every time I was going to oh my god, Windows 10 Steam survey, Windows 10 Steam survey, yada yada yada. Windows 10 is now over 50% of users are on Windows 10. Then I actually went to the Steam survey. I'm like, what about we just look at this data and actually look at it for ourselves and see what's going on here? And there was actually, besides the Windows 10, Windows 7 thing, there was so much more cool data that came out of this survey that I thought was way more interesting than the Windows 10, Windows 7 stats. So, I mean, where was that? The Windows 7 stat, I think that was, the Windows 7 stat was about, I don't even know, but basically Windows 7 was 30% of users are on Windows 7 still, over 50% of users are on Windows 10, and the rest is 8% is like Windows 8.1, blah, 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 and then it sort of trickles down to other OSs there. But what we've got here as well is almost 40% of users are on 1080p monitors, single 1080p displays. Then you've got a huge chunk of majority of people are still on 720p. So 25%.
That's the classic. If you're wondering why that resolution, that's what a lot of laptops have. Yeah. 1336 by 768. A lot of laptops will run at that resolution, so that's why that one comes out quite large. Interesting to see that 1440p is only 1.84%. Very, very.
But even more scary is all other resolutions above that, your wide screens, your 4K monitors, are only 2.3% as well.
Yeah, I guess they've only put that as other, but yeah. So no, interesting. What this is what I tell you guys so often in my videos. People complain about stuff, but I say, the vast majority of people out there are still gaming at 1080p. Yeah, they honestly are. So,
and then you even got there for multi-monitor is 3 1080p monitors are still the majority of the setups.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
Yeah. So that's pretty.
Then others, of course, you've got your 3 1440 ultra wides or whatever. So that was pretty cool data coming out of that. There's also the graphics cards as well, and this one was probably the most interesting for me, was the CPUs here. Over 20% of users are still on AMD CPUs. So this is why Zen is getting so much attention, so much focus. I couldn't believe that. That's actually a really huge stat, considering how technically AMD's sort of been out of that IPC race for so long.
Well, it has been declining though. If you go at the start in July 2015, they had 24.7% of users with an AMD CPU, and then now it's dwindled down to 21.3%. So it's still holding their own, but it is on a downward angle slightly. But Ryzen will turn this around.
Oh, I think it'll turn around big time. I mean, That's
I
a crazy
doubt they'll
stat.
get
Like,
above 50% unless it really nails
oh
it. But I
no,
would see this go up to
you've got
about
on.
a third.
Yeah, I mean, you get no way. Like, I'd like to see this go up to 30% though, which I think is
Yeah,
actually
I would.
possible.
I think that's possible. Yeah, 30 to 35%
If
market
if
share. I
Zen
can see
just
that.
goes crazy for the next year and a half or whatever, and people are
Yeah,
just like, yeah,
yeah,
give me more of this, give me more of this, but
yeah,
not too really. Like, that's a huge stat already. Like, it goes to show how much AMD sentiment out of there still is out there. Like, that's huge. I thought that was a really huge statistic. Another thing was the Intel CPU speeds as well. The majority of CPU speeds of people on Intel CPUs are on 2.3 to 2.7 gigahertz. So this means that, I mean, a lot of people are on laptops, like you said
Yep.
before the stream as well. But I think a lot of people are still on those old school, like, Q6600s, like i7 920s, and they're just not overclocking, or it's registering that CPU as being 2.66 gigahertz. Because I know when I go to like my Steam server, even if I've overclocked my CPU, it'll still come out as like, oh, your CPU's still this speed. It's like, no, it's not. I've overclocked it to this speed now. So that's an interesting stat. And then we've
It
got
could be depending on how it's done, but I would say the bigger thing is the laptops, because that fits right where a lot of laptop CPUs like to sit between 2.3 and 2.7. So I would assume that's the majority of the case rather than the older CPUs.
Yeah, so here's a Windows data too. I just pulled that up now, but we've got the GPU data as well. That was pretty scary. The 970 is just the king at the moment. So 5%, like almost 5% of all users on Steam have a GTX 970, which is really huge stat. Like every single computer out there, 5% of people have a GTX 970.
Yeah,
And I mean, it's declined. People have upgraded their GTX 970s, but the 960 was the next card that came in, and that was 3.72%. Then we had a 750 Ti, and then we had a 1060. And the 1060, interestingly enough, is outselling the 1070, even though it was released later. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's kind of what a lot of people, when it came to value for money, what's more interesting that I find is how far down the list the RX 480 is.
Yeah,
in the sense that you would think it would be a lot higher, considering that and the 1060 are made for what I call the value for money tier, and that's the peak in terms of what they call diminishing returns. So obviously, when you go higher to the 1070, 1080, they're more powerful graphics cards, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But in terms of what you pay per frame, it gets more and more diminishing. You're paying more and more money for less and less gain, basically, as you go higher. And the peak right now is the 1060 is the best, because it also goes the other
on
way.
Nvidia's side,
Yeah, where you end up paying less money, but you're getting vastly less performance, say with something like a 1050. Yep. So, the 1060 is the peak in terms of the value for money, and the AMD side of things, it's actually the RX 470 is the peak in terms of value for money, depending on where pricing is. It was the 480, but now
I think at $150. Yeah, I think at $150 the RX 470 or $155 if you can pick them up on special. Definitely for AMD, that's where they're. But it's interesting enough, the RX 470 was like way down on the list here. It was like 0.13% or something. But I think that will pick up in coming months when a lot of people start recommending this card at around 160 or around 155, 150.
Yeah,
on special.
I'm very surprised by that.
So that'll start picking up big time. I mean, I'm testing the card out in this PC here. That'll be a PC hitting the channel pretty soon, but really damn cool. Like, the RX 470 performs really damn well for what it is. I mean, it's a huge card for the money.
Sure. Yeah.
So surprisingly too, these statistics here, there's Intel onboard graphics. I can't believe between Intel Haswell and HD 4000, there's almost 5% of users are on these hideous graphics chips.
That's all. That'll be all laptops as well. That'll be all laptops. Yeah.
So that was
pretty
won't
surprising.
Be desktops. 7900 was still a very popular card too. That was good to see.
Yeah, so the 7970, that old Hawaii GPU, I mean, they still go hard. Yeah. They still go hard, so you could see why people are using them. Getting a bit more outdated now. Don't think they can run DirectX 12, I believe. The GCN, what were they at back then? Can't even remember. So getting a bit dated now. That might still be coming up as that, because the 280X was just a rebranded 7970 gigahertz edition, so it could still, the 280X might still be coming up under that rather than the 200 series. Considering even some like GPU-Z sometimes would get confused between them. But yeah, so that might be what's pushed that one up a little bit as well.
So the also the 1050 Ti was doing better than the RX 460. I mean, that's easy to see why, but also at the same time, the RX 460 has been out for quite a bit longer than the 1050 Ti. So crazy how the market's moving. But regardless, you are seeing, like, your value for money cards are generally leading this list. So that should give you an idea that value for money is really an important thing when it comes to enthusiast tech. We got here next is Zeus. There are two monitors at the displays here at CES. They had their 4K HDR monitor and their 32-inch. And yeah, what did you think about Zeus's monitors? They're going to be pretty hexy as well. $1,900.
Yeah. So this one's made. I'm good. But this one's made primarily for productivity. This doesn't look like it's for gaming. Though, I mean, you can use it, but this is what it's going to be mainly made for. So of course it's going to be IPS. HDR, if you do not know, that means high dynamic range. It's, how to explain it? It basically makes it's to do with the color, but you'll get basically richer black colors, like darker colors. You'll get. It's very hard to sort of explain when it comes to something visual like that. How would you explain HDR? Just deeper.
Just pushing in the color gamut. That's all.
Yeah,
just cramming it in there, making it. You're basically you're just increasing the range or whatever. You're grabbing it, stretching it out, and making more color out of what your color is there. So you're making a picture better than what it should be. And that's a good thing, right? That's one thing that I've said to people, like, what do you want out of photography? Do you want a flat picture? For me, I love the oversaturated colors. I love the extra contrast. I want a picture that looks better than what it does in real life. HDR essentially is doing that. It's giving you a better picture. It depends, it's, again, very subjective. Very, very subjective. Everyone's eyes are different. But for me, I love things like HDR. I love these things. So pretty cool seeing that out there.
It's a good jump up. I mean, they say in the article, like, it's a major leap forward. I wouldn't say major. It is a step forward, which is good. But I think we saw the major leap forward with monitor technology a few years ago. That was when people started taking it a lot more seriously, especially when it came to resolution and also panels and all the rest of it. It transformed a few years ago. That's when we saw the big leap forward. But with this is still good. But again, this is for productivity people. So it'll be video editors, picture editors, people that need that color accuracy will be the ones that will be interested in this new monitor.
Well, that's what I was going to talk about with new monitors. See, I haven't bought a new monitor for quite a while now, and I've been recommending a lot of people these budget monitors to get you by. Like, if you're going to spend big money on monitors, I was going to say, because Sharp are now investing $864 million in OLED production, and it's mainly for the next iPhone, but I'm wondering when we're going to get OLEDs that are going to hit PC monitors. I mean, this is what I'm waiting for. I mean, me personally, I'm holding out. If I want to spend money on a monitor, and spending into $1,000 something, if you want to spend big money on a monitor, I want it to have big technology. I want it to be really damn good. So this is for me. I want it to have OLED lighting, active matrix. This is the one here. They got two types. They got the passive matrix and the active matrix. And it's funny, this here, I've got this little Co one. I bought this ages ago. This is from 2009. It has an AMOLED screen. And at first I was like, damn, why does this screen look so vibrant? Why does it pop? And I didn't even, and then I started researching. I was like, oh, okay, it's got an LED screen. And surprisingly enough, I want to see this come, it blew me away. And so I want to see this come into PC monitors, and I can't wait for it to hit PC monitors. Yes, it will be expensive, but it'll be worth it. It'll be so much better than these cheap wide LEDs we're getting in the back of our screens. There's RGB lighting as well, but this is going to trump it. AMOLED looks beautiful. It just looks amazing. I mean, if anyone's seen it, let me know in the comments. What do you guys think of it? I just love it. Of course, you've got, and then you go into this, right? You've got different things within this own technology, the type of layer they use on it. If they're using a plastic layer, if they're using a glass layer, these are going to be, you know, things within the OLED process that are going to make even that picture look different. So it's a really cool technology. You know, it's something that I'm looking forward to seeing coming out on PC monitors. And personally, I'm not going to be dropping big bucks on a monitor until it has at least this in it. You know, the lighting is so important. Just like you've got your 144 hertz, just like you've got your, you know, sharp pixel response times, the lighting as well is a big thing. So
yeah.
And I can't wait for that. So
yeah, that'll be good. And that sort of ties into the apparently Sharp is going to be investing 864 million to OLED production ahead of the next iPhone that will be coming out. Now, if you did not know, Sharp is actually owned by Foxconn, so that's why they're working together on this. But yeah, that will be for apparently for the iPhone 8. So a lot of people, if you do not know, a lot of people have complained about iPhone screens for a while now. Their Retina displays have been getting a little bit dated, so people have been wanting to see something new, and I think that will be
something
a big
pops,
jump up there.
Something real.
Yeah.
Something real, something pops.
That's a lot of money to invest in a new sort of production.
Oh, it's coming, man.
Yeah, well, Foxconn is ridiculous. Like in terms of, I think like Foxconn is 1.3 million employees. That's like a quarter of the New Zealand population.
That's it.
Yeah, just absolutely crazy. But yeah, so that'll be interesting also. Yeah.
Got a rumor here, EVGA too. We'll move on to this next one. EVGA. So yeah, OLEDs. We'll finish that. Just saying, I can't wait for it. I want it to hit PC monitors. If anyone has any juicy articles as well, like when is it going to hit? I mean, I know Dell at the last CES last year, they displayed like a 4K monitor, didn't they? Having an OLED display. And there was also a monitor with like a translucent display as well. I mean, OLED is incredible. You know, like, yeah. So if anyone's got any good read-ups about that, would love to read it as well. We got here a rumor, EVGA partnering with AMD on Vega, possibly. Apparently the word is that the Titan XP was a Nvidia exclusive, and they didn't give the board partners the chance to sell, in turn making any profit for themselves. And, you know, the board partners, obviously, they need to sell graphics cards. They need to make that money. So rumor is that EVGA may go and make AMD cards, which would be awesome. But I mean, I kind of highly doubt it, since EVGA has always been Nvidia. You know, back through those World of Warcraft days, they were enjoying those juicy sales. So
yeah, this would be a big shift. They're also saying it's because Nvidia is selling those founders cards directly, which has upset a lot of the board partners, because that was part of that would be what they would sell as reference cards. They would make a very minor adjustment or just put a sticker on them or something like that and resell them. So that must have upset them too. I mean, it would be a big... They did say, you know, it says EVGA has denied rumors. Of course they're going to. If you think they would just own up to it at this stage, that's just not good business practice. They wouldn't have done that. But so it makes sense they deny it. But yeah, they've definitely got motive to do it. But it would be a very... I think it would be quite shocking for a lot of people to see that happen. But hey,
it'd be awesome.
For it.
It'd
be cool to see some of those for the win coolers on the cooling Vega chips. That would be very cool to see. So we'll just have to see how it happens. I don't expect people who think maybe that like in the future you might see Sapphire making a cooler for an Nvidia card. That won't happen, because Sapphire is actually owned by AMD. So the reverse isn't going to be happening anytime soon. So don't need to worry about that.
The next one, we've got the 1080 Ti. According to WCCF Tech, they've got another article here saying it's going to be announced now at PAX East, March 10th. Yep. So apparently, they've like, you know, apparently Jen had the card. He had the 1080 Ti behind his back, and he had someone whisper, are they doing it? Are they announcing Vega? And he's waiting. Just hang on. Presentation. Just wait. No, they're not announcing it. And then he sort of just like snuck it in his back pocket, the 1080 Ti. And then he said, okay, guys, welcome to the presentation. Here we go.
Yeah. I
And-
think that's they were waiting. They're gonna wait, but we have got some specs down at the bottom of this article. Don't know how accurate they're gonna be. They're just rumors right now.
It's
So
funny, hey,
we'll
it's funny
take-
how the specs haven't been released yet since,
Yeah, well,
since
I
it's
think
been-
it's pretty. When it comes to the GPU, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised. It'll be the exact same Pascal chip that you get with the Titan XP.
yeah, exactly, right, yeah.
It's going to
Just a
be
bit cut down. Yeah, a little bit cut down.
a bit
that's
cut
it.
down. A little bit cut down. The memory's where everyone's curious, so that'll
too,
be where
yeah.
it's at. This is saying it's going to be GDDR5X. I would hopefully assume it is. It's going to have 10 gigs of it. TDP, 250 watt. I said earlier that's what I expect it to be. This article is also saying it's going to be that. That's what it is. It'll be higher than the 180 watt TDP of the 1080C. This will mean that the Vega 10 GPU, which is rumored to be at 225 watt TDP, will actually be under the 1080 Ti. So quite interesting there. If we remember back to the 200 series, the 290X had a 300 watt TDP, and the 780 Ti had a 250 watt TDP.
TDPs are still TDPs. I mean, I would imagine that it would be using more than a 1080 Ti in real world conditions, the Vega. I mean, and again, depends on clock speeds too. So everything, much of it depends on it depends here. But I'd say they'd use up similar power.
Yeah, it'll be a
maybe even
384.
Vega using up a tad bit more, even. So.
Yeah, maybe. It'll be definitely a 384-bit memory bus. I can pretty much guarantee that. 384-bit bus. They haven't listed it there, but just take it from me. I doubt. You would agree with that, right? 384-bit bus.
I mean, maybe even they just, because if they do use GDR5X, then they don't have the need to use a full 384-bit bit wide bus there. So.
They could just use
they could just cut off cut off a whatever 6 of it. So that's a possibility too. So it remains to be seen. Are they going to go with just could they go with 12 gigabytes of GDR5 too? Possibility. So I'm waiting to see the details.
They would still get the bandwidth there, even if it's just standard GDDR5. As I've said to you though, I worry from a marketing perspective, it will be hard to sell the card above a 1080 when it has a inferior memory, even if the bus is wider.
That's true. That is a valid concern.
I think enthusiasts would be a bit sort of skeptical about it, or
but then again, as I said before, it's
interesting.
going to be hard. Then it's going to be hard to sell a 1080. And exactly. they make some big bucks off those 1080s. Don't worry. So they always make money. They always make the most amount of money off their flagship cards. They always will. That's how it goes. Flagship CPUs as well. $1,700 for a 10-core Intel. Bang! That's bank right there. I mean, it's an exaggerated example, but you can see 1080 versus a 1070. The 1080, they're making much more profit per sale than a 1070. So that's how it is. So we'll go to the comments now. So that's about it for the articles, guys. We'll head to the comments. And let's shoot, guys. You guys can shoot all the comments you want, and I'll be here to listen. Kev will be here to listen, and we'll shoot maybe for about 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna get going and start benchmarking and filming and doing all that. I don't know how long until I'll actually be on camera because of this eye thing. My eyes still like kind of teary and stuff. It's okay for the live stream because I've just got this little portion and I can kind of tilt my head to the left, right, or just sway my head to the right. And you kind of can't see my terrible eye, but shoot at it. So, and we got to ask what do we think about Vega? I mean, I can't wait for it personally. I would love that and Zen. I can't wait for the both of them just to test them out. Obviously see how really big they are for the gaming community. See if they are the shake-up that everybody's intended. So that's what I'm really hoping for. So
I'd agree with all of that. Someone also said, will a 6700K run on Z270? Yes, it will. You do need to do a BIOS update though, or else if you try drop it straight in.
Oh no, on a Z270 a 6700K will work. Are you talking about the other one, a 7700K on a Z170? That'll need a BIOS update, possibly.
Don't you still need to do the update when it's Skylake going to Z270?
No, they'll all be back.
You can just drop straight in?
Yeah, pretty
Oh,
sure.
I'm just remembering back, because when I in the past when they would run the same thing, you would have to do the oh yeah, no, that would make sense. Yeah, it should drop straight in. Yeah, no, Brian's probably right. Yeah, I'm trying to think back of what. Yeah, no, okay, that's right. Yeah. AMD having all those NCUs being able.
Oh yeah. Also, we'll plug the forums too. So if you guys want to join us on the forums, come over to the forums, check it out. We've got a lot of topics going on there, really cool. So there's a lot of cool people in there too, a lot of loyal people too, really awesome. And we're all helping each other. Join the community out, love it. Really awesome.
No, it's great.
Kev, you just joined too, didn't you? You just joined the forums, didn't you?
It's nice. Good. It's good people. Yeah, good. You guys want to head along. It's good. It's fun. It's a nice small community right now, but I'll start posting on there a bit more soon.
Is it
everything?
No, we've got to ask a good question. Is it a bad idea to have a water-cooled PC on 24/7? Yes and no. I mean, it depends. It depends how good your water cooling system is. I would always have a fail-safe there. Obviously, having a good power supply is crucial in any water cooling build. Have the fail-safes there in case, in the small possibility that something really bad does happen, your PC will just cut out straight away. That's the most important thing. Make sure you have a really good PC power supply, one with all those extra, fail protections there. So. What about these other questions? Any idea on the most likely price range of the 6 and 8 core Zen chips? I was actually looking. I want the 4 core. I'm looking at the 4 core the most. I think that's the biggest one for the raw gamers out there, right? We got rumors of $150. I would guess maybe a little bit higher than that, maybe just under 200. I think that's what you're going to be looking at for their 4-core 8-threaded CPU. I think at that price point is going to be a killer. I think around $500 for their 8-core is going to be good as well. And if they're going to release the 6-core as well, that's going to be awesome too. So the 6-core is going to be a really hard-hitting chip. So,
I think that'll be that'll
be the sweet spot. Depends on the price point though.
That's exactly it. So, and also asked, what do I think of the auto overclocking with Zen CPUs? Well, we haven't had a huge amount of information. There's been a bit coming out though to do with that, and it's from what we've gathered. I believe it's similar to how a GPU GPU boost works on Nvidia GPUs, in that you will get varying amounts depending on temps and the silicon lottery and stuff like that. So I think it'll be interesting. We need to know more about it and see it actually working, in the real world. But I definitely like the idea of it rather than the set speeds. The idea like in Nvidia GPU that you can, they all get different varying clock speeds just from the factory through GPU boost 2.0 and 3.
Got some good backlog of questions here. Sorry, I don't want to ignore people too. How about the 4K 144 hertz G-Sync monitor? 144 hertz 4K, really, you're gonna need some serious damn power.
Yeah, you won't have the graphics power to get near that.
That's just gonna be insane. Honestly at the moment 1440p 144 hertz is really damn good.
And you still need a high-end GPU for that.
Yeah,
to get the most out of it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's what I mean. For me personally, if I spend that kind of money on a monitor, it's going to have OLED in it. So that's what I'm waiting for, to be honest. We got us here also. What do you think it will take for AMD to overcome the Nvidia Mindshare? How much better would Vega have to be? That's. I mean, it's interesting because Nvidia's Mindshare essentially. When the GTX 970 came out, that's when they really had that huge thing going for them. They had the more efficient GPU, they had the more powerful GPU, they had the cheaper GPU, they had the shadow play there, they had the good drivers still coming out. That's when their Mindshare was at its strongest. Now I'd say it's declined a little bit. They've kind of done this Founders Edition stuff, which was arguably, people didn't like it. The GeForce Experience 3, personally, I hate it. I'm not a big fan of it. They've got performance issues. They've seen driver issues. I I think that Mindshare sort of mindset, like Nvidia being the superior product, is like, you know, people are going to start questioning what is the superior product, and that all depends on you, the user. For me personally, having a good experience on the software end is just as important on the hardware end. I'm willing to ignore efficiency things if my thing doesn't, my card with its software package doesn't work the way I want it to work. And, you know, then I said in that video, you know, when I'm quickly trying to get some clips for my videos, if I'm quickly grabbing an old clip, I'll quickly go on YouTube, drop it full screen 4K, and then shadow play that bit that I want. I don't want to have to download the whole video from YouTube and then get the bit that I want. You know, so there's a lot of things going on here that, you know, so it's hard to say, but, you know, software's so much, it's so important. It's so underrated as well, I think. So, and I think that Mindshare is going to decline a little bit because of that. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that. One thing I got to mention as well, I said earlier that the 7970 ran on Hawaii. That's what the 200, the 290 and 290X ran on. Also, the 390 and 390X were on. Well, they changed the name, but it was essentially Hawaii. It was actually Tahiti. It's just, these are going back. You know, I think Brian can probably agree with this. Tech reviewers like us, we do deal with all these products, but because we deal with so many different code names and everything, a lot of times it does blur together in your brain.
Yeah, those AMD names, man. I forgot half of them, like Tahiti, Hawaii.
They blur together a little bit. That's why we have. With me, I mean, people will come up sometimes in person when I'm at in Playtech and stuff like that. And they'll ask me about certain laptops, and they'll list off the model code for the laptop, and they'll be like, "Yo, you tested this one. What did you actually think?" Yeah. And I'm just like standing there thinking, like, man, I've tested like 40 or 50 laptops now. I can't remember all the different model codes. To the point now,
better yet, crazy. I mean, just give us the number of the card, like the 7970. That's how I remember it. Okay, all right. Gen 1 GCN, Gen 1 GCN. Okay, all right. You know, RX. Whatever, 470, okay, latest generation. That, just give it to me in that thing, and I'll kind of, you know, I know then, okay, that's Gen 1, Gen 2, you know. Yeah. So that's how I like to think of it. Like, yeah, these code names, man, like, because I'm terrible with names too, you know, like I'll meet someone, I'll like get their name, and then I'll forget about it. I'm like, oh, crap, you know, it's... But numbers, you know, numbers, I always remember numbers, you know, like how much you got in your bank account. Oh, yeah, I got $555 in there at the moment. Yep. Don't lose track of that, you know. So we got asked, you know, with the 4-core 8 threads, is the i3 overclockable i3, is that going to be non-existent now? I think that's a very big possibility. Yes, I mean, arguably I'd say the i3 7350K is going to be not as good as the 4-core 8 thread from AMD if they're around about $150 each, especially since AMD's motherboards, the B350 for example, bang, huge hitting motherboard, right? It's going to be a budget motherboard that's going to tie in well. You're not going to have to pay that licensing fee. Sort of all the licensing fee on the B350 is going to be very cheap in comparison to a Z170 or a Z270. So that is really cool. The thing that worries me though is the 6-core. I know people in the audience are talking about the 6-core now, the 6-core. How much is the 6-core going to be? You know, if you start creeping up to $300, for example, and what if that 6-core doesn't overclock, maybe it only goes to 4 gigahertz, and you don't have as much IPC as Kaby Lake, then that 7700K 4-core 8 thread, which is going to perform maybe just as well, right, at 5 gigahertz, that's going to start being a competitive market. So that's what I'm kind of a little bit worried about. The 4-core is looking like a really good proposition from Ryzen. The 8-core is looking pretty good as well, because, you know, you're going sort of above and beyond the 7700K, and you're starting to go into that market of 6900K. But what about, you know, the 6-core? That's sort of where I'm a little bit concerned about. How's that going to compare? You know, max overclocks, because Kaby Lake is Kaby Lake is overclocking pretty damn well. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the i3 is what a lot of us are most looking forward to. In terms of having a play with, would be quite fun compared to the rest of Kaby Lake as being pretty underwhelming. The little i3, I mean, a lot of us enjoyed when the Pentium G3258 came out. That was a lot of fun to test out. That was cool. This will improve on that. The fact it's still a dual core, but it has hyper-threading, where the G3258 did not. That was a big issue for a lot of people when certain games required quad cores. That little Pentium wouldn't work. Whereas, well, some people managed to get around it, but that won't be an issue with this new i3. The games only look for the threads, they don't look for physical cores. So the fact that it has 4 threads means that any game that claims it requires a quad core will still run with the little i3 just fine. And it should overclock very well. I'd assume most people will be able to get that thing up to
I am testing
4.8,
the 6100
4.9.
here. I am testing the 6100. I will be doing a budget build with it very soon. It's a nice CPU. Honestly, I love the older Xeons, and I'm going to have a video coming with that soon as well. Some very cool stuff. Go and hit the channel. I promise you guys, you're going to love it. Just when my eye decides to be a bit better too. Yeah. So we've got here also some other Damn, you guys are asking some really good questions today. This is crazy because sometimes when we ask, we're like, "Hey guys, you got questions for us?" Like people are like, yeah." What's a yeah? I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah's a yeah. But now we've got some. What do you think of fine wine technology? I mean, that's real, right? I love it. I mean, personally, I think it's great, right? It's a thing where AMD, older AMD cards are utilizing all that GCN driver improvement, and they're performing a lot better than the older Nvidia cards. I think it's a great thing. Of course, you're getting more value for money, especially those guys on budgets, and especially for the used market, which I love. It's, that thing is real. It's great. What do you think?
Oh no, I agree with everything. Yeah. No, it's good. Yeah. Anything like that is always going to be good for the end users.
Yep.
So I think that's
what's an affordable HDMI capture device for a PC? I mean, affordable depends on your budget, right? I just got the HD60S in from Elgato. I love it. Like, it's a really good device. I've actually using it for this build, capturing all the footage here. I mean, you could probably pick some up, the previous models, if you don't mind just 30 FPS or whatever, or maybe just the HD, the old one, the original one. There's some other ones out there you can get. I haven't tried other brands though, so don't ask me what about brand X capture card. Have no idea. I've only actually tried the HD60S and the HD60 Pro, and I can highly recommend both of them. They're damn good. So, just everything about them. Like, I haven't had any hiccups with them. So, people like, oh, the input lag, I haven't noticed, like literally none. Maybe that's because they're the newer models. They've improved the input lag. I'm not too sure, but I've only tried these 2 models and I love them. Also, do I drink coffee? Yes, sometimes. I don't drink it religiously, but I do drink it sometimes. I'm drinking Jar Jar now. He's got coffee in him. So.
I don't really drink it, but we'll just do a few more questions, guys.
And have we seen the WCCF comment section? The Nvidia Mindshare is still strong in there. Look, guys, don't go to the WCCF tech comment section. Just one look, man. You've got like people posting up like memes of gangsters, guns and stuff. It's just all the time. It's just crazy. I mean, if you want a good laugh, go to the WCCF comment section. I mean, I gotta admit it gives me a good laugh sometimes. Just when I scroll down.
Sometimes it's funny, but it's not very informative.
Oh, like you gotta love it. If you want to see, I wouldn't call it Nvidia Mindshare. I'd just call it a constant, perpetual fanboy war. Like, it just never ends. It's never ends.
People do it on YouTube, but it's way worse there.
It's perpetual there. If you guys ever, any new article, even if it's non-AMD or Nvidia related, it'll just be like, I've got an Nvidia card, F you AMD fanboys, and then straight away they'll be like, yeah, blah blah blah. Just that's the WCC. People looking for a stir all the time. I mean, I gotta admit, it's good for a laugh, but if you're serious about a conversation, like if you're serious about getting some proper advice, then I'd stay away from the WCCM comment section.
It's pretty average. One other question. I'll make this the last one for myself, because the stream's been going on for a while now. Someone asked, so what's the best model of GTX 1060 in terms of which one performs the best? I would probably say right now it depends on where you live of what you'll be able to get, but that extreme gaming Gigabyte GTX 1060, that little thing is a hell of a card. Now, you will pay a price premium for that card, but that is a huge cooler on it, and that is extremely good if you want something that you're going to be able to overclock to the moon and back. Gigabyte also have their binning process that they do to make sure you get with the extreme gaming. They also come, I believe, with a very long warranty. So that would be my recommendation for a 1060
really?
model.
The bidding? Is that the G1? Because I got a G1 here, man. RX 470.
They do it there. What's it called? Gigabyte's
Gauntlet or whatever.
Gauntlet sorting. That's it. Yeah, they do it. The main thing I think with the extreme gaming is that is a
the stream gaming. Okay, stream gaming. Yeah.
No, not okay. Yeah. The G1 is probably better from a value for money perspective. I run a G1 GTX 1080, but the extreme gaming that has the much bigger cooler, all the upgraded components, all the rest of it. It's just a much more better performing card. But that's if you don't care about spending that extra money. So it's pretty expensive, you know.
Great. Also got one last question too. Great question too. Bruce Werdeman. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong, but we got here. Brian, don't you ever build used AMD parts? I did do a few. Right, we're talking about mainly the CPU side, I'm assuming, because I love used AMD GPUs. I love 7870, 7970. Oh yeah, favorite cards. Mainly, I guess when you talk about the old AMD CPUs. In comparison, right, when you're picking up those cheap Intel old school X58 boards or P55, H55, the Xeons are just so cheap on those lines, and those Xeons just absolutely, floor the old school AMD chips. There's no comparison. And so with that, right, since used builds are predominantly focused on value for money, that's kind of why I've been going predominantly Intel on those old school builds, because the value for money is just so damn good. I've actually got a build coming up that's going to be really damn good, because one thing I get critiqued about is sort of like the availability of parts. So I've got some really cool thing where I'm going to be comparing a used build to this one, and we're going to be seeing how good those old school Xeons are. I mean, I love them. They're just, you're picking up the CPUs themselves, and they're just so good. You can't, how can you beat like $35 for a 4-core 8-threaded CPU that clocks to like 4 gigahertz? And IPC wise, it's not leagues behind even the latest CPUs.
Yeah.
So it's really stunning. I mean, the Phantom, and like people raise points. The Phantom CPUs are still good. They are still good, but like you compare it to a Xeon, even if the Xeon's only $5 more expensive, it's still a lot better. So. Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough game, but at the moment, I think the used builds are always those price performance, hard hitting builds that are always the best value for money, bar none. And that's why I guess a lot of the times the Xeons come out on top. Like the Xeons are always coming out. It's like, oh, Brian's got another used build. It's another Xeon. Yeah, but it's going to be awesome. Another awesome Xeon. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, if you want to become a mod too, send me a message too, and I'll. And if you got questions too, you can also send them to our Twitters or in the comments section after this video goes archived. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram, Tech Yes City, or Facebook. I'll put the links all in the description below for all these social media. If you've got questions, you can. That's probably the best avenue to hit either myself or Kev up on.
Yep.
And we'll catch you guys in the next week. So stay tuned for the juicy topics. I think we hit all the topics that people wanted to listen to.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yep.
So big show too. Yep. Big show. We went for an hour and a half. I miss you guys a lot. That's just because we missed you guys so much.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, it's great.
So, all right, we'll catch you guys next week. Peace out for now. And any closing words, Kev? Go check out Kev's channel too. I'll put the link in the description below.
I'll start posting content up very soon. We're getting a new Kaby Lake build all done up for me, so we'll start doing some testing with retail CPUs, see how much overclocking we can get out of them. So yeah, definitely check the channel out for that.
Definitely. All right, guys. Love y'all.
All right, see you
guys.
We'll
catch you next week.